What's up, Zox fam? Now, we got a lot to talk about when it comes down to Holden. All right. Now, we just actually got our first clear with him on Hell 4. And I got to say, he's quite impressive for what he does. And I want to talk about some of the things that are required. Now, one of the things that I've told you guys, and some of you guys might have seen in previous videos, is I always mention that characters don't just have one build. They have more than one way that you can build them so that it can facilitate how they operate in either PVE or PvP. But we're going to be taking it a step further and talking about the skill investment portion. What do you do if you don't have a skill fully maxed, or is it even necessary to max out a certain skill, right? So let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. So just to recap on what this character is bringing to the table, the S1 is going to have a defense break in the execution mode. He'll be able to, when entering battle, for every 500 points of defense, he'll increase his own counter attack rate. This can be brought up as well to give him more of a counter chance, also increasing the rate of additional damage dealt, etc. Right now, on the skill 2, the skill 2 is going to have a 480% multiplier based off of his defense to hit a single enemy with a 100% chance to push back. When this is not skilled up, I think it's at 50. Now, with that being the case, it always will, no matter what skill up investment it has, it will always maximize the skill cooldowns of the opponent. And this is just, kind of food for thought, more of like a PvP thing than it is PvE when it comes down to the maximized skill cooldown thing. Unless you're doing a anti-sync or a boss where they actually have like cooldowns, right? Now, on top of that, you have the steadfast conviction. This is going to be your ability that is going to be basing damage off of 180% of your defense. And then on top of that, it's AoE, it hits twice, and it has at base a 35% chance up to a 50% chance to dispel one buff per hit, and when you crit, you can double the effects of it, right? So it's very, very straightforward in how this character works. Now, let's talk about what we did. Now, what I actually decided to do for the build here is I decided to actually build him speed. Now, the reason why we're building him speed, and this is considering lack of skill ups for certain things, right? Because in PvE, a character like Holden, his main job and really where you're getting the value is going to be coming from his skill 3 and his skill 2. Right? The skill 1 isn't really required for anything really in like PvE content, because to be honest, we're trying not to get hit as much as possible if we can help it. I would definitely say if he was able to run things better, like say Doki Doki, then that would be an area where that would really be able to shine, but it's not, right? So the main thing is you're trying to dispel whatever buffs bosses may have, or you're trying to basically push them back. And when we're looking at how you're going to be able to facilitate executing this as properly or as efficiently as possible, he needs to be fast. Because rotating him slow, which would be more of the thing to do if you were trying to aim for some of the PvP builds with him, it's not going to make the skill that useful in a PvE setting, because a lot of the times with certain bosses, you need someone that can buff strip. And if you can't actually do that to begin with, then here you are, right? You just basically kind of like waste it, and then they might reapply it, etc. So you're just really trying to make sure that you're able to execute this as fast as possible. Now, the other reason why this is important too is that without any skill up investment, you have to consider that you need him to rotate faster so he can get his turns faster to make up for that turn that he does not have built into, right? So that's really, really important. Now, the turn meter push, I think, again, it's really, really OP when it is at its max, but is it required? I don't think it's required, but it is nice to have. I will say it is one of the things that helps me out with some of my runs, but considering that the higher up you go in things like up into Inferno, the turn meter pushback does start to have a diminishing value, but because it's at 100%, 30% reduced off of that is still insanely high, right? Because that still would make it one of the highest pushback abilities in the entire game. I mean, just for what it's worth, the only difference or the only thing that's really, kind of a thing is it's single target, but who cares? Like, it works on him. And then outside of that, it's the damage portion that you're getting. I would argue in the PvE setting, you're not really going so crazy over the damage either with this character. So there's also that, right? Now, when we're talking about the main stats that we're focusing, effect accuracy, crit, and effect accuracy is what we're going for. I think that there's a couple of different things you can consider in terms of whether or not you go for more crit versus more effect accuracy. I think that if you actually end up skilling up some of his skill 3 and you go into at least that level 3, then you can go for more crit, because it's going to be basically giving you a chance to double that effect if you crit, right? So that kind of makes more sense. It'll actually have you closer to your cap at that point, right? And so it kind of takes that like value down, so you don't have to necessarily go with the effect accuracy. You still want some, but you don't have to go with a whole bunch of it. The other thing we have to remember too is this character can inflict a res down, so that actually really helps with landing debuffs. But if you again don't have that level investment, I definitely would recommend, if you need to, have more effect accuracy on him, and you can still have some of the crit. And so it'll just be kind of a fine balance between a fine-tuned balance. Now, when we're talking about the pet, okay, and I'll show you my prowess investment real quick as well. We honestly, I would say, like, for him, biggest stats, even if you weren't maxing the skill out, would be the defense, because that's what he scales off of, and that's also going to be a good thing to keep him alive. I would even say the HP is going to be nice, so we're working on finishing that up, and then we should be cooking, right? Now, let's actually look at the shell. What shell are we using? We are using Gigabyte. What is the lower investment choice? Obviously, you could use things like Black Flag. I would definitely recommend Shanghai Jing. All depends on what you're trying to do. But the main thing is that we are trying to make up for what we are lacking, which is skill up investment. And the main thing that Gigabyte's going to allow us to do and to facilitate is the fact that we have opponents like Interramaton that are rotating faster than us. So we can basically use this as a way for us to be able to cut into our turns, so we can get our cooldowns much quicker before they fully rotate multiple times in front of us, right? Now, I definitely will say that Artisan can definitely work if you have the speed, but I would definitely say that means you need to be at an additional like 130 something to like 150, which most people aren't going to have that, by the way. But I would definitely say that Artisan is a really good choice. Now, outside of that, I would say like recommended gear, just to kind of give you guys another perspective on like some gear that you could go for with him, would definitely be things like if you're looking more towards like the bulky bruiser build, Bulwark would be really good on him. I definitely would say Bloodbath is definitely a great one on him as well. Then you would have your Unbreakable, and then of course Bramble, right? So for PVE, he is going to be more than likely just emphasizing the speed. I'm running the Bramble on him for the additional 10%, which is nice, but we're not really building into Bramble. He has a pretty good chance of counter attacking as well, so we're not trying to overtune that part, because we're not using him for any of the damage, or even the defense break more than anything. I mean, the defense break is nice, but again, that's not really the main thing that we're really pushing with him. Now, outside of that, I'm gonna show you guys real quick how that run looks, which it's kind of crazy how it works, but it absolutely freaking works. All right, so basically with what we got going on, we're going to be opening with our Holden. Holden's going to be basically setting the tone, attack down. Then he's also going to be able to drop the resistance down, which makes it easier for us to land the rest of our debuffs, right? So there we go, attack down. Boom, we got the defense speed down, her hack in progress. And then here we go with the Ting. Nice, we got some decent damage there. And then we got that balance coming from the Valerian. And here goes our cuts, right? So this is why we run Gigabyte, because she's cutting us. So boom, we get that skill 2, and he gets knocked all the way back, right? And we got that defense up coming from the Freya. And we got that redistribute from the class, right? So it's a lot that's going on there, right? And this is all so that we can speed him up. We don't have the investment in the skill 3. So we want to speed him up so that he can actually go and strip this defense up boss or buff when we get the chance to be able to do it, right? All right, so we got this arm pushing him again. Class. All right, I think this damage actually goes into Valerian, which is always perfect. That's kind of a HP balance, like, you know, tweak thing to make this more consistent. But Freya gets to go. She doesn't land her Nightmare, which is okay. We got the defense break, actually, surprisingly, from his skill 1. And they're hammering on my Valerian pretty heavy right now, but it's all right. There we go, good hit from Ting. Now here we should actually be able to get a skill 3 from Holden, and it should strip that defense. Boom. Boom, he strips. Now we rotate into our next set of turns, and that actually is going to make it much easier. Boom, class, the ting, Holden, pushback. See, it reset him. You see how much of a chance we got there? That's my hell 4 clear. Okay, now I just gotta like walk you guys through it, slowed it down a little bit, but it's so good, dude. It's so good, right? And that's actually not a bad piece, even though it's attack. Hey, somebody might use it. But yeah, so it makes it much easier for us to be able to get into it. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it was actually a lot harder for what my account was giving me for me to be able to make that shift. He's made it so much easier. Now, of course, I think it's important to remind you guys that this is all in relevance to what I always say, is that PvE facilitates PvP. So depending on when you get this character, like say you're much fresher on your account and you're trying to climb, I feel like he's going to give you a lot of value and utility. Let's actually talk about some of the other areas, right? So I can actually use him. If we go to my shell drop, we're doing like, you know, Nico Nana, Shadow Flame Hoyan. He actually helps in all of these dungeons, right? Like that's the thing here. So let's say Nico Nana, which is a pretty predominant one. If we go into my challenge, like, I mean, this is actually a fairly quick like fight anyway. And I don't have 3, you know, matrix bonus, like the 3 slotted matrix bonus modules yet. I'm still using epic pieces on some characters. Like it is absolutely insane, some of the stuff that he's bringing to the table. So opening with that attack break is huge, because if Nico Nana does hit me or hits you, she's not going to be hitting you as hard, right? So I think that these are some of the things that players have to consider with some of these bosses. Now, granted, I'm able to do stuff like that, but it just makes it so much more consistent with me landing the other debuffs that are coming after it, right? And this, of course, is another way to lower some of the gear requirement, or even if you're not lowering it, just lowering the innate resistance that the bosses have, right? Now, the other thing is too, let's take a look at like, I don't know, Shadow Flame Hoyan is another one, right? Or sorry, Sharon. So Sharon's another one, right? So let's actually go into Sharon. And this, you're just dealing with nothing but dot, right? So, oh wait, hold on. Restart. Let me change my unit out. Boom. Yeah, you're just dealing with nothing but dot in here, right? Now remember, he's also red attribute. So boom, class, boom. And I might not even have to run any other damage dealer anymore. I was running 2. You seen that my Lilith was in there, or my Ramoka was in that slot. And so he's like, he makes it very easy for you to be able to facilitate your teams. Then of course, things like that, Gigabyte, letting him cut. Boom, he gets a turn, pushes back the boss. All right, and then we should be able to actually finish off here. It actually does some decent damage on this build. It's not crazy, but it's like, hey, that's better than what I thought it was gonna be, considering he ain't built into his defense for real. And he has all those counters that go off. So you see his counter chance goes off quite often. And then boom, the team kills, right? So right, 52-second kill. Again, he's able to work in a lot of areas of the game. And the thing is that it's not just the simple fact that he has the skill 3 he has, it's also that pushback. The pushback is actually really nasty in my opinion. And like I said, for PvE and for facilitating that, I feel like his value really does come more from his skill 3 and then his skill 2. With, I would say, you were looking at the skill investment level 3 so that you could get that increased chance. And then maxing this is definitely something that would help out a ton in being able to push back bosses. But is it required? No, it's not. You do not have to skill them up or feel like you need to. It still is going to work. You just don't get as much pushback. It's still going to be pretty good though, because it still will be one of the higher values in the game, but it's not going to be as broken, right? But it'll be good. Now, I know the other question will be, can I run this build in PvP? Yes, you technically can, but how does the role change, right? So let's actually get into a fight here, and I want to show you guys what it might look like. So let's just refresh this, see who we got. We got a couple of different things going on. We got a Holden. They might be faster, so we'll see. But the biggest thing is that when you're running him like this, again, he's running faster. So it kind of sort of changes the application of what he might be trying to do a little bit. So if he's opening, for example, like here, what this is allowing him to be able to do is he's going to be able to land the attack down and then the dispel. So this is making it to where the opponents will have to actually remove that first if they want to hit you harder, or if they do have somebody that says rotates in with their own Gigabyte or Shanghai Jing, then it's going to allow them to be able to actually hit with less damage, right? So with the skill 3, I'm just going to go ahead and use that. Right? And it's still not bad damage depending on who it hits. And this is considering he's not even fully built into his defense. Now, if we actually go into just kind of, again, when you're playing PvP, either autoing or manually, doesn't really matter so much other than the fact that this team has potential to rotate. So we'll do that. And then we'll go with our AoE. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I don't think I have gear on my Leon, which if we lose, that's because of why. Right, that might be because of why, but he can also counter here too, so we'll see how this works against us or for us. All right, so Ramoka's going. Let's see what she does. Oof, okay, just enough. It killed my Leon, but not anyone else. All right, so here we have the turn meter pushback, and this is a really good ability because this is going to ensure that whoever we have rotating that we don't want to get a turn just does not get a turn, right? So now we go skill 2. Boom, kills their Lily. We go into a buff. Now, I guess we're somehow doing this with, kind of don't have a choice. We got to do this with him. All right, and then the Ramoka is going to actually, see we have our Gigabyte. So now we're going to start working on the Ramoka. That's actually not bad damage, right? If he was actually built into his defense stuff, though, that would actually be hitting way harder. Now, the thing that's actually kind of messed up with like Freya versus Freya here is that we both can restore, help restore our allies' HP, but then Ramoka also has a skill 2 that will restore her HP. And this is why we love Gigabyte, because it's actually allowing him to rotate quicker. Now, this isn't going to be every scenario in PvP. It just so happens that my Leon couldn't cleave because she had no gear on. That was my bad, but hey, we'll leave it. All right, so we got rid of the Ramoka. And then he gets his counters off. Like, see, dude, he is so clean. And then boom. So yeah, you technically can still use this build in PvE. It just kind of pushes you more to a cleave build than like more of a bruiser build. Which I would say personally, like if you're really trying to get the more value out of him, then you want to definitely push for, oh my God, the modifier is so good on that. You definitely want to push more for his bruiser build. But again, a reminder, for free to play, it's going to be much harder to try to facilitate having 2 different builds on a character. So the other thing is too, is that like when you're looking at a character from this point of view, you have to also decide like, what do you want the character to be doing for you, right? Like, are you just trying to use this character for PvE, or are you trying to also use them for PvP, or are they only for PvP? And I think for a lot of players at this point, this early, we're creeping into the 2nd week, is going to be really important. You're still picking up characters that are facilitating and helping you progress in PvE. PvP will come, right? So I feel like when we're looking at this from a whole, which I have a whole nother video focusing and emphasizing a lot more on the PvP build for him, because that's just something that is a whole nother level of investment in a whole different direction with this character. I will say, for those that are going to ask the question, what would you recommend for investment for his PvP build? You're going to want his skill 1. His skill 1 is going to basically allow him to be able to get more counter chances in. And because his damage is going to be higher and he's slower, you want to take advantage of every chance that you can get when you're getting hit to actually be able to retaliate. So that with like Bramble is going to be pretty massive if you're really trying to take advantage of that. But again, like I mentioned before, Bulwark, Unbreakable, you have Bloodbath, and then Bramble, I think are going to be some of the best in slots for him for that. But for facilitating PvE, this is basically what I feel like works best on him, and what's really going to allow him to be effective, especially even going into the Infernos, where now you're not just dealing with that initial, hey, I gotta strip this. Like, actually, let me show you guys this real quick before we end this video, right? And I just want you guys to see something. I don't think we're gonna be able to beat it yet, and I might have to make some more tweaks, which is okay. But when we go into Inferno, I want you to see this, right? Holden is gonna be able to deal with something that it becomes a gimmick here now, right? So if we start this up, they're faster. That's cool. Boom, they hit. All right, Klaus dies. We stop it. He can deal with this immunity buff on Inferno now. So when we go, so this is why running him fast in the early, it sucks because it's like, ah, man, I don't have any skill cooldowns. I gotta wait, I gotta rotate him. But here it is literally perfect, right? And this is the same thing that you're gonna have to deal with on Aurora. So now we can actually facilitate landing our debuffs and pushing forward, right? So again, that's the value, right? It's for what it's worth. If you don't have a Heinrich, if you don't have a Veronica, if you don't have certain characters that are going to enable that, you literally have a character currently on rate up that's going to basically allow you to be able to do that. And this, again, like I said, Aurora is going to be the exact same thing. The only thing you have to consider there, though, and for some of the teams, it's going to vary, I will say. You can't technically use him here, but there are other lower investments that you have, like Yang, that can technically work and facilitate some of the stripping here. But I will say, for what it's worth, Holden actually is pretty solid. Do I recommend that you pull him? I would say that if you do decide to pull him, he does have a good amount of areas for you to be able to utilize him, and definitely is going to be a valuable character later on your account when you're able to emphasize more of the PvP aspects of him. So yeah, guys, that's basically all I got for you in this one. Definitely make sure that you guys stay tuned and keep an eye out, because we will have a PvP video coming from him separately, because I want to kind of have those facilitated differently. But yeah, that's basically going to be that with this one, guys. All you guys stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.